You will recall yesterday His Excellency the President, the Deputy President and the House leadership met with 32 members of Jubilee who stated categorically that they are not in the business of engaging in subversive activities around the country in the pretext of political rallies. I am also aware from where I sit that members of parliament from ODM and other Azimio-affiliated parties have sought audience with His Excellency the President, especially members of parliament from Kisii. They had intended to seek audience with the President on the same issues of to disassociate themselves from the subversive activities of the Azimio leadership and those who sponsor them. And therefore, last night's drama at Matiangi's house was one to excite people's emotions, invoke public sympathy, but it also a script that we would describe as a perfect case of the guilty being always afraid. And we want to state that as guilty as they may feel, they may have imagined when they abused state power against many of us in the last regime that we were acting scripts. But you remember when 300 police officers were sent to arrest the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. You were all present, many of you media people. You witnessed everything that happened, right from Citizen TV studios the night before to the following day when Ndindi Nyoro was being arrested in Murang'a by over 300 police officers. And you could see the police officers. You remember when the Honorable Oscar Sudi's house was raided by close to 550 officers in the wee hours of the night. There were photographs, there were videos of the officers even breaking into his gate. You will remember when Senator Lagat, former Senator Bomet, was being arrested. You could see the policemen. We want to challenge the scripters of last night's drama to show Kenyans a single photograph or a video recording of the officers they purport to have been in Matiangi's house. Not a single photograph has been availed, not even a CCTV surveillance of that residence, not even a video recording from Matiangi's or his house girls or his watchman's or his gardener's phone. None. And surprisingly, even the media house that purported to have been on scene, their cameras, in a very mysterious way, could not capture a single policeman. The best they could capture is Raila Odinga and some funny media-craving lawyer purporting that he has an army of 200 other lawyers who again could not be seen. Therefore, this script and all this drama was a figment of a few people's imagination within ODM, an act out of desperation, an act aimed at inciting Kenyans and invoking public sympathy. And I want to tell the Honorable Raila Odinga and his team, whether you will resort to some of you asking their mothers to speak on their behalf, to scripting drama, nothing will distract this administration and the government from doing what they are doing. To CS, former CS Matiangi, we know you are afraid. We know the guilty are always afraid. But we want to tell you this government will not act as carelessly and as irresponsibly and abusing power as you did when you were in office. Whatever you are afraid of, and you know the things you did when you were in office, just patiently wait for the law to catch up with you. And if anybody wants to arrest you, it will not be done in the wee hours of the night. You will not have to stage any drama. It will simply be the law catching up with you. You are aware the very many cases of extrajudicial killings that happened in this country. When the law catches up with you, you will have your day alone and with those who you abuse power with. Therefore, nobody should run squared. Nobody should try to evoke public sympathy. And we want to just advise them to be patient and to hold their horses. And also to advise them, if they're intent on acting out scripts and drama, the National Theatre right next to Nairobi University is still open. They could probably hire the place or get a few people there who can help them to direct the scripts and drama they want to act out. But theirs of last night was unfortunate and poorly scripted and poorly directed by whoever was directing it. Lastly, it's unfortunate that a person the caliber and standing of a former Prime Minister and former de facto Assistant President to Uhuru Kenyatta could in the wee hours of the night wake up to go and act on the roadside. We want to ask Raila Odinga, because he had his phone and the scripter of this drama had his phone there, to share with Kenyans one photograph, one video, or anything they have of any officers that were around Matiangi's house. And if the intent was to scare the Inspector General of Police, the Inspector General of Police has stated severally, he runs an independent office and he will do his work without prompting from anybody. Neither will he be intimidated by the actors of these scripts. Therefore, if you are acting to dissuade or to discourage or to intimidate the Inspector General of Police or any other security agencies or investigative agencies, we want as members of parliament to encourage all our investigative agencies and security agencies deal with all Kenyans in accordance to the law and without fear or favor. And don't allow yourself to be intimidated by those who think that they can intimidate you with scripted drama. Asanteni.
Thank you.
Well, members of the press, as the leader of majority has said, there is a place for serious news, but also there is a place for farces, for comedies and tragicomedies. Even some of us who are practitioners in the trade do not involve ourselves in putting the trade of acting, the trade of directing, and the trade of producing scripts into such disrepute. Now, they are well in their place to put out these dramas. But the tragedy of it is when the media, especially very esteemed stations, fall prey to some of these funny scripts that are being put out there. There are lawyers who are also associating themselves with some of these very unfortunate scripts that are being put out there. The truth of the matter is that there has been an attempt to bring disorder, chaos, and civil action from the day results were being announced at Bomas. They were not able to mobilize Kenyans to get into the streets and cause chaos. Bomas came and it went. When there was a case in the Supreme Court, there are people who are hell-bent in causing chaos. They even tried to mobilize Kenyans through social media to come out and cause chaos, get into the streets. That also failed, and the Supreme Court ruled as it did. Soon after that, there were people who were calling for maandamano, and they wanted Kenya to come to a standstill. They failed yet again. So what we are seeing now is the height of desperation when they realize that even what they were building is imploding from within. When they realize that members of parliament, elected leaders, and other people who would have otherwise associated with them no longer want to be associated with causing chaos in this country. So what we're saying is, as the politicians play their funny games, it will be very sad if media and respectable professions like lawyers and so on jump into this trap and end up being part of this very sad tragicomedy. We would be expecting that mainstream media becomes the source of the truth, because there is already enough fake news being peddled on other social media platforms. Mainstream media could actually be the one point of truth where Kenyans come for reliable news, news that has been fact-checked, news that can only be reported as the truth. But now when mainstream media ends up being the peddler of fake news, then the Kenyan does not know where to go to get credible news. So it is a call for the politicians to be sober in whatever they are doing. But if the politicians will not be sober, then let other institutions also question us when we are putting up things that are not up to the standard of what should be aired in our stations. Thank you very much.
Which colleagues? Huh? Well, is he a member of parliament?
And maybe could there be plans to raid Matiangi's home?
So 3 questions. One, our reaction to Matiangi going to court to seek injunctive orders, well, anticipatory bail or injunctive orders.
Anticipatory bail.
Well, he wasn't obeying court orders himself. Well, first I said, and maybe as I answer you, and as I also answer Luke's question as to whether there are plans to raid Matiangi's house, and he's seeking anticipatory bail, well, he's the same person who disobeyed court orders. We advised Matiangi, we advised Kibisho, and those who were in power then, that power is so transient and temporal. And everything you do should be in line with the Constitution and with the law. And that is why we have reaffirmed this government's commitment to doing everything within the principles of the law and the Constitution. I am not aware of any plans to raid anybody's house. Neither do I raid anybody's house other than my own. I do not know what to say of Matiangi going to court. It is within his rights to go to court, and the courts will hear him. But also, as I said, this is a clear case of the guilty being afraid. The script was purely intended to invoke public emotion, to excite Kenyans and create the feeling that he's being harassed by anybody. Because maybe he's afraid of his past. But I want to tell Matiangi he can only be afraid of his own past. As I stated here, many Kenyans, many families today suffer because they lost loved ones. Over 200 plus people were slaughtered under the last regime through government-sanctioned extrajudicial killings. There are those today who may be running scared because they know investigative agencies are on their work and they are catching up with them. There are those who looted public assets with impunity, those who waived taxes and KRAs on their case. That is where you see all the political activity, people saying you are politicizing collection of taxes, well, as they are the ones politicizing it by talking about it in rallies, when they are told you waived your tax for yourself here, you waived taxes for your family businesses here, you had no such powers, please pay up because now you are not in power. Therefore, Matiangi is within his rights. He can go to court, and he should also not run scared, as I said. He should be patient, go around his business, daily business, and if he thinks he's innocent, then he has nothing to fear. If he thinks he's guilty of something, he has everything to fear. But he need not worry that anybody will raid his house in the middle of the night. President William Ruto is running a very responsible, accountable, and transparent government, and he has committed to that. When he committed that the rule of law, not the rule of man, will be the order of the day, he meant exactly that. Therefore, when anybody, even myself, is required by any investigative agency or any security agency, they will look for you and they will get you, and you have to answer what they want to hear from you. What was our question? Our colleagues celebrating. I am not aware whether there was anybody celebrating anywhere. But again, as I said, you know, this thing was scripted to excite public emotions. And if you do your investigative journalism well, you will know the scripters.
Do you think
the person who called the first media house to run the breaking news, you know him?
we don't?
You don't?
Please share.
Citizen TV reported that, is it Dennis Onyango? Dennis Onyango was the one who called in live to say, ask yourself, Dennis Onyango is a media practitioner. He's a seasoned journalist. He has worked in the office of the Prime Minister as a media liaison person. Was he unable to even record or take a photograph of one single policeman at Matiangi's house? The IG has told you not a single officer, except those who are in the imagination of Matiangi, Raila Odinga, Dennis Onyango, and that funny media looking lawyer. What is his name? There's some funny lawyer there who was claiming, who is only seen with the media, never in court. He's not known to have won any case in court or defended anyone in court, purporting that they have a battery of 200 lawyers. Who saw the 200 lawyers? Or even 10 or 20? Were they so opaque that they could not be captured on camera, on even in this, you can imagine in this digital age, even if there are no media cameras, they have phones, digital phones, they all have very many gadgets. They could not capture one photograph of a policeman. Probably they should even have gotten G4S and or the youth. I saw with them at some rally somewhere. They would have taken those youth there and said the jungle fatigue they were wearing and called them policemen. And wouldn't waambiwa Wakenya sio wajinga, na ndio tumewaambia Wakenya wasiingie kwa haya mambo ya watu ambao wanataka uchochezi, wanajaribu kuchochea Wakenya. Na tukasema hakuna afisa mmoja, vile Inspector General wa polisi alivyosema, vile waziri wa usalama wa ndani Profesa Kindiki amesema, hakuna afisa hata mmoja wa kitengo chochote cha polisi alikuwa kwa nyumba ya Matiangi. Yale yalikuwa ni mambo yaliyolengwa kuwachochea Wakenya. Na tukamwambia aliyekuwa waziri Matiangi, usiogope. Ni yale wazungu wanasema wale walio na tuhuma za mambo maovu waliowafanya huwa wanaogopa. Lakini ukijua uko na hatia, wacha kuogopa. Kama kitengo chochote cha usalama ama wanasheria kitakuhitaji, sheria itafuatwa na utafuatiliwa kulingana na sheria. Kwa hivyo wasiogope, lakini pia wasiwachochee Wakenya. Tunajua yale maandamano yao yamekuwa yakififia. Mliona juzi wabunge karibu 10 kutoka Nyanza wakiwa na Mheshimiwa Rais wakisema madhumuni yao makuu ni kuwatumikia Wakenya waliowachagua. Jana uliona wabunge zaidi ya 32 wa chama cha Jubilee wakiwa pale Ikulu na Rais, na wakasema pia wao hawana biashara na mambo ya maandamano na ya kuhujumu amani ambayo iko nchini. Wanataka nchi iendelee, isonge mbele, tufufue uchumi. Wakenya waliotupigia kura sisi wote, waliopigia wale wajumbe wa ODM, wa Jubilee, wa UDA, wa Wiper, na wakampigia Rais kura, waweze kuwafanyia kazi, wafanyie raia kazi, ili tuweze kufufua uchumi, mwananchi apate haki yake. Alishafanya kazi yake ya kutupigia kura sisi wote, wale walio pande ya serikali, wale walio pande wa upinzani, sisi wote tutumikie mwananchi. Na hao wabunge wote, najua jana wabunge kutoka Kisii walikuwa wameomba, hasa wale wako upande wa ODM, pia wangetaka kumtembelea rais ili wampe hakikisho ya kuwa wao hawashirikiani na wale watu wa maandamano na fujo. Wao wanataka amani ya nchi na ufufuzi wa uchumi. Na nafikiri haya ndio yaliwauzia wale wa Azimio uoga, ndio wakafanya ile drama walifanya pale kwa Matiangi jana usiku. Na tumewaambia wasichoke kufanya drama, wale wanaouliza mama zao wawatetee, pia waache kusumbua wakongwe wetu. Wakongwe wengi hawana namna ya kupata mapato ambayo wataweza kulipa ushuru. Lakini wewe kama ulitumia mamlaka yako ofisini kukwepa kulipa ushuru, lipa ushuru polepole, na kama umenyamaza kama vile Wakenya wengine wanavyofanya, wacha kukimbia kuuliza wazazi wako wakutetee. Enda ujitetee na checkbook KRA, ulipe ushuru. Kama umekuwa ukinunua maziwa ya watu, wenye unanunulia maziwa analipa ushuru, unanunua viazi ya mtu mwenye umenunulia analipa ushuru, wewe ukiuza hulipi ushuru, jitetee kwa kulipa ushuru. Hayo tu. Si tukubalie wewe.
Haya matembezi ya kwa ikulu ya rais tumeleta kadhaa kwa bunge wengine, kwa mfano tumeona huyu bunge kutoka Lang'ata amefurushwa kule kwa mkutano ya Azimio Manzori. Je, ufikiri kwamba wakizidi kutembea hivi itakuwa kama kwa
Unajua kufurushwa Azimio?
Jalango ametolewa kwa mkutano.
Jalango.
Ilikuwa ni guni sawa kwa.
Unajua baadhi ya mambo ambayo na mnajua tangu wakati wa Ford Kenya ile ya kijana wa Malwa, mnajua ile tunaita kwa kimombo modus operandi ya Raila Odinga ni kutumia vijana goons kuhujumu haki za viongozi wengine. Na sio tu Jalango, nakumbuka kijana wa Malwa akifurushwa Thika Stadium. Unakumbuka Mheshimiwa Magarer Langat akifurushwa hapa Kilimani. Unakumbuka hata journalists kama Francis Gashuri akifurushwa na wale vijana. Na pale Kasarani unakumbuka Mheshimiwa Babu na Mwamba na Mheshimiwa Isaac Mwaura wakifurushwa. Oalo. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni njia moja ya Raila Odinga kuhujumu demokrasia ambayo anajifanya anatetea. Mbunge yote ana haki ya kumtembelea na kushauriana na rais. Anayo haki pia ya kuwa na uhuru wa mawazo. Atumie akili yake kujua ni nini kitakacho nufaidi watu ambao wamemchagua. Na nataka nikuambie Mheshimiwa Jalango, yale mambo alipeleka mbele ya rais siku wakati alikuwa pale ya watu wa high rise, ya project ya affordable housing na TVET ya Lang'ata. Almost all constituencies in Nairobi except Lang'ata have TVETs that are either going on or complete. The Honorable Jalango raised the issue of the TVET, and the President assured him he will have 50 million shillings allocated to that TVET for its completion, so that the youth in Lang'ata and Kibra can get skills that will enable them make a living out of their lives, other than waiting to be dressed in jungle fatigue by somebody who has used their parents and is now using their children to undermine democracy and undermine the peace that Kenyans are enjoying.
I have one running question. The Kenya Kwanza administration have been agitating for a opposition to do their work to oversight them. For the opposition to play their role of oversight. But of late you have been making serious overtures in the same camp, having them to work with you. In the last you want to oversight the government.
The fact I frequently meet His Excellency the President in State House. Are you telling me I can't oversight government because I meet with the president? Is that what you're saying?
Not the opposition. I'm very specific on the opposition.
Are you saying any member of parliament meeting with the president in any way undermines his role as a member of parliament?
Not at all.
They are pledging allegiance to working with the government.
Working with the government does not mean that you do not oversight government. I want to tell you, even these members in Kenya Kwanza will and shall oversight this government.
Exactly, we do.
If you listen to President William Ruto in Nanyuki, he gave his assurance that will he not only fail to call any investigative agency, if any member of his government gets into trouble with the investigative agencies, but also gave the House leadership the assurance that we will do our work independently. And therefore, the visits to State House by members of the minority and even their commitment to work with government is to work with government to work for the people of Kenya, to push the development agenda, to revive our economy, not in any way to undermine the role of members of parliament. And therefore, I want to encourage them, and I told them the other day, if they fail to do it, we in Kenya Kwanza shall do it. Because we have a mandate under the Constitution to oversight government, and we will do that without fear or favor.
And they are playing their representative role.
And opposition is not
Exactly what Mheshimiwa is saying. Members of parliament also have a representative role to represent their people. The people of Langata, the people of Bondo have a right to be represented by their members of parliament. And, you know, it's also an affirmation that these members of parliament recognize the government of the day and the president who was duly elected by the people of Kenya. And I think that is what is very painful to the Azimio leader and his sponsors or his project owners. Zimetosha hiyo? Hata bani. For development purposes.
If you don't visit status, you can't get development.
Who said that?
You're the one saying it.
Who said that?
No, so why should
No, is it a question you're asking?
Yes.
Is it a question you're asking?
Yes.
Whether you need to visit status for
To get
development?
development. If Jalango does not visit Nini, he will not get the Tibet.
If no,
If he did not visit, he will not get the 50 million.
those are your words, not mine.
No, yes. That's not when the warm bed.
You do not have to visit even parliament for you to be represented.
Yeah, so
I am sure you don't come to parliament for your member of parliament to represent you.
So Jalango
But
doesn't-
engagement with those in government, engagement with those in government is very important, I can tell you. Prioritization of government projects. You must align, even as a member of parliament, you must align your agenda with that of government for you to be able to get what you want for your people.
Can they not do it outside?
Failure-
They can do it outside.